Sowore's greatest regret. Sowore has made many tough decisions in his life. He stood against cultism and increase of school fees as the UNILAG SUG president between 1992 to 1994.
Can you tell us about that day you were finally attacked?
It was March 1994. It was my last day as a student union president, 1994. I was in the student union building when I got information that some guys had taken over our rally ground. We used to call it Freedom Square. That's where we hold rallies on a weekly basis. And they said, why don't we go check the place out? This is weird and strange. So I walked to this place, was the new hall area in the middle of campus, and sat across from the rally ground and saw different groups of guys. This time around, they were wearing their signal. They had red hats. Most of them were wearing black on black, and I knew something was amiss. Some of them I knew, and some of them wore face hats, dark glasses, and I noticed the moment I stood up to move, they started moving in different directions to cut me off. So I started walking briskly. I told this guy, I said, it looks like we have to mobilize students. This is going to be rough. As I was walking, two of them came up to me and said, are you Mr. Sowore? Of course, I said, yes. I knew one of them. I said, but you know me. And then they had a gun against my waist. And they said, you have to come with us. And I said, where? They had me by my waist, my pants, and kept dragging me. And some students would, come and they'll run away when they see the gun. And so at the point, I was able to break loose, and I ran into one of the hostels, and they ran after me. So it turns out that they were all over the place. They had sat, in some of the bars on campus, bukateria, cafeteria, eating and drinking, and all of them were just running after me. And then when we got to a place, they pinned me to the wall and injected me with an unknown substance. And some of them left at that point. Maybe they thought I would die. And as I turned around, I saw one of them who was my classmate, and I shouted his name. I was like, hey, how could you be part of this? My classmate, we're supposed to start exams the next day. So he then started telling them like, oh, Sowore knows me now. I'm in trouble. So please let me get him out of here. And he helped drag me out of that hallway onto the outside. Now, when I got outside, a different group of these guys pounced on me, and then one of them stabbed me in the head and left the knife there. And then they stripped me naked and started dragging me on campus, and students were just like, people were throwing stuff at them.
And all this lasted for how long?
It probably lasted for about 2 hours or so. And it took me back to the student rally ground and took me to the podium, which is about 1 story high, and asked me to renounce, to apologize to them and renounce my student union presidency. It was all confusing because at that point I didn't even know what was going on, and because my whole body was bloodied, blood was gushing out of my whole body. I was naked.
He led 5,100 students in protest against the Babangida government in 1992 and the fight for MKO Abiola's stolen mandate in 1993. He also continued the struggle until democracy was restored in 1999.
In the following years, Sowore led dozens of demonstrations in support of democracy, like this one at the National University Games in 1998. What started with chanting outside the gates ended up with the entire student body rallying on the field against the military leadership. At the center of it all was Omoyele Sowore. This was not the kind of message the military welcomed. As the crowds dispersed, Sowore was arrested and imprisoned for 2 weeks.
Sowore decided to disrupt the media space, and he succeeded.
I said yesterday, I have disrupted the media space. It is time to disrupt the political space, and they will find out.
By setting up Sahara Reporters in 2006, the nightmare of all oppressors, both political, religious, ethnic, and even global. In 2018, he took another decision to leave his family and life in the US to come back to Nigeria to disrupt the political space, and disrupt it he did. Most of his decisions has led to his persecution, arrest, or detention by military and civilian governments, private individuals, organizations, and even pastors.
I have worked against 7 presidents in my lifetime, starting from Babangida, right? When I was a student union activist. I went from there to Shonekon, to Abacha, from Abacha to Salam, from Abu Salam to Obasanjo, from Obasanjo to Yaradua, from Yaradua to Jonathan, from Jonathan to Buhari. Sometimes pastors. I have problems with pastors, Nigerian pastors. Now I have problems with him. Yes. Based on my work on Sahara Reporters, I have a pastor, the pastor of the fire ministry in Lagos, who sued me in Akwa Ibom in 3 courts, sued me in the US. The lawsuit is still there.
Many persons who have seen this level of shege may have looked back and wished they did things differently, but not Sowore. If given another chance, he would fight every single battle again and even harder. But of course, from the title of this video, you know Sowore made mistakes and had regrets, and the greatest of them may have been his decision to leave Nigeria and relocate to the US in 1999 after years of fighting for Nigeria's democracy from military rule.
But what has been missing in all other stages before now has been to have people of character, people of capacity, and people who have exposure, people who have integrity handling Nigeria at those crucial stages. Before now, we've left it with incompetent people, people who are sentimentally attached to religion, tribe, people who have very shady backgrounds, people with political and military baggage. Time is to get rid of that. So this is a time for real people to handle Nigeria's march into the future.
Now, there are two sides to this. On one side, Sowore's departure, rather than staying back to contest or run for any office or take political appointments, may have indirectly created a vacuum for opportunists and visionless rulers to take charge, benefit, and run Nigeria to the ground. On the other hand, if Sowore had not relocated to the US, Sahara Reporters may not have been founded. The Nigerian government would have ensured it.
When I started Sahara Reporters a year ago in a lab in Lagos, I promised that anybody working in that lab will not be paid less than the minimum wage that I'm proposing today. And that's exactly what I did. But you know what? It didn't take more than 2 months after I started when they came after, they seized the money through a law court in Ilorin. The Senate president seized the money. Of course, I just won the case in the Court of Appeal, and we're waiting to get out our money now.
Plus, Sowore's life was at stake in the 1990s after state actors and cultists injected him with an unknown substance, necessitating him to be hospitalized for 5 days. Sowore may have spent more than a decade far away in the US, but he never really left Nigeria, as he was involved in virtually every major political event in Nigeria.
Right, there's no political event in the last 30 years that took place that I wasn't part of.
Also, if Sowore has remained in Nigeria, his immediate family would have been in danger. After all, he lost his brother due to the insecurity in the country.
People like me who have always stood on the side thinking that we can help them shake the trees when the fruits are ripe, would have a different country if we don't step into the ring. I've suddenly realized that we are deceiving ourselves.
So what do you think? Was leaving the country in 1999 Sowore's greatest mistake or one of his best decisions to date? Let me know in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
What about the university security at that point?
We couldn't find anybody around at that point.
So you were at this podium, bloodied, naked,
Yes.
pulling you from left to right,
Yes.
What exactly was going through your mind?
I wasn't afraid. I don't know why, but I kept telling the students, I know this might be my last, but don't worry, I've done my best, and carry on the struggle. So that was what I was saying, even as they were beating me and asking me to renounce and say, okay, and apologize to them. But as that was going on, some 2,000 students, you can ask me who is counting, but that would be my guess, were coming from the gate. So I jumped from this podium onto the ground and fell on the back of my leg, my heel, and almost broke my back. So at that point, the students just carried me. And as we were going towards the university head center, another set of students were coming, almost about the same number. But the two groups didn't know who was who, so there was a clash. Again, the group that rescued me were clashing with the groups that were coming to rescue me. So for another almost 15 minutes. People, they were just throwing missiles at each other, saying, leave Sowore alone. And so it took a while for them to understand that, they were doing the same thing.
Aside from you, was any other person hurt in this attack?
I wouldn't know. At this point, I was losing my mind. I was seeing less and less because there was a lot of blood coming out. So they took me to the University Health Center. Got there, nobody was there except the ambulance driver. And there were no doctors, no nurses. Everybody had left. But the ambulance driver curiously said, well, they asked me to wait here in case anybody comes in and needs help. So that was how I was taken to the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Lut. And as I was entering the place, I just passed out. I didn't wake up until the next day after surgeries had been done on my head. I'd received treatment, but when I woke up, I couldn't recognize myself. When I went to the mirror, my whole body was swollen. It was crazy.
Did you ever find out exactly what the substance was that was injected into you?
There were a lot of rumors, but when I went to the US, I did tests for lead. I did HIV tests, all kinds of tests just to be sure, but nothing was found in my bloodstream.
How long did it take for you to recover from that incident?
So I was there for 5 days. What I heard later was that the next day, the students on campus went on a statewide protest in Lagos State and visited the homes of some of these court leaders and their parents, and there was a lot of fracas because they were upset.
The university was thrown into chaos. Students fought against confraternity members and the police got involved. The campus was closed down and Sowore left the hospital and went into hiding.
I don't think we came back to school until maybe 4 or 5 months later. But when the school reopened, we went and organized ourselves. When they reopened the school, I slipped into the school, even though I was still wanted at that time. When the students saw me, they got excited. Went on the protest. We did exam boycott the next day. And eventually, by 12 noon the next day, the school authorities issued a statement claiming that we've been granted amnesty, which is amnesty for the student leaders and amnesty for the court guys. So
you were allowed back in to write your exams?
Well, of course, they had no option. I was popular in those days as a student leader, and when most students thought I died. So the excitement itself to see that I had the courage to come back to school as a leader, they were willing to do anything for me to finish my studies. So I remember my last paper, there were over 100 students just standing outside of the exam hall, ensuring that nothing happened to me while I wrote my last paper.
And that your coursemate, you said you recognized at the day of the attack as one of the people who attacked you. Did you ever get the opportunity to see him again?
Of course. He didn't say a word. He was in class.
Did you say anything to him?
I didn't say anything to him. Because they were enjoying massive protection from the system. So we sat in the last exam together. He was in an exam. But we just would take glances at each other. And I think he was pretty scared of what could happen. But we didn't go back to school with the intention of exacting, vengeance, which is I wanted to focus on graduating and keep the student union government going.
And so what sort of impression did this leave, in you? What did this make you want to do next?
All my plans for the future was just shattered. But it strengthened me to want to fight stronger and, for a better society where this would not happen to other people. But I tell you today, it feels like things are still the same.
And things still the same in terms of what university courts have evolved to look like today?
University courts have evolved into street gangs as we have it today. It's even worse. I don't know if you monitor what happens on our streets. Campuses generally are quieter in terms of violence, but the streets have taken over. And much later, which is the most recent, is that they spread beyond the campuses, even into the diaspora, to the point that in Canada and in Italy, some of these cult groups or gangs have become outlets for drug distribution and the drug trade. Right now, I even heard that students in primary schools, students in secondary schools are joining cult gangs. It's scary for the future of this country.